After the rhythmic complications and um, very hard very hard divisions of the basic rhythmic unity, which took place in the later part of the 14th century. The beginning of 15th century sees a simplification of musical practice, where even if it kept with it kept on with polyphonic structure, sometimes quite complex. Nevertheless, it gave up all these rhythmic complications, which was sort of experimenting new mensural practices in the beginning, in the end of the 14th century, which now didn't need any more to be experimented. So it harked back to a more simple musical sound. The main composers of this of the 15th century are, the beginning of 15th century at least, are Dufay and Benchois. Guillaume Dufay and Benchois, who are both of Franco-Flemish provenance. Dufay worked in basically he spent his early years in Italy, although he was of Cambrai, which is nowadays northern France, and he spent there his formative years. But then he worked very much for the Savoy House, for the Malatesta, and for the Pope as well. Then he went back to his homeland, to the Flanders, after having acquired lots of ecclesiastical benefices where he could survive with. In fact, we don't have to forget that most of the musicians of this era were ecclesiastical, were clerics. And just because educated musicians could acquire their education attending capitular and cathedral schools, and many of these then took on the orders just because it was a very suitable way to have an income without the insecurity of an employment by patrons, which was not always a guarantee, of course. And so they had to cope with it, and most of them became clerics and tried to acquire as much benefices, as many benefices, ecclesiastical benefices and prebends as possible, so that when they were old and perhaps they were not unable to work, to be employed as choir directors and teachers, they could survive on this. And many musicians made a fortune of this. In fact, Dufay, at the end of his life in the 1470s, was a rich man, and he was very successful. Of course, not all musicians were so lucky, but at least they were able to lead a decent life with this. And according to how many renowned patrons they had contacted during their lifetime, and how powerful these patrons were, proportionate to this, they had as many benefices, and so they could survive with this. Benchois was another case, because Guillaume Benchois was a layman. He was not a cleric, and in fact perhaps he was not even an educated musician, because even if we had lots of music handed down from him, by him, it does not mean that he personally wrote this music, because it can also mean that he just had it written down by scribes. I suppose, and other people also suppose, that he was not a musical literate, because he was not a cleric, and the way of acquiring, because he had not had an ecclesiastical education, the only way of acquiring a musical written education was through a church at that epoch, at that age. And in fact, he was employed as a court musician by the Dukes of Burgundy, who employed him was classed as a minstrel. A minstrel is all of those musicians who were not employed as chapel masters, as maestri di cappella or kapellmeisters, and so he made his life entertaining the Dukes of Burgundy, basically. It's a bit usually these musicians, it's an exception that we have so much music handed down from him, because usually these musicians, being not literate, had not the music handed down, had not the music written down, so because they used to improvise perhaps, and they used to sing on the lute or on other string instruments, or plucked instruments. At the end of the 15th century, this sort of extreme specialization of sacred and secular music within polyphony, and the complexity grows again very hard, as it was with the end of the 14th century, as I mentioned before. And for example, we have the development of very complex musical structures, such as the Mass, where each movement has its own structure, and it was unified by a song, which could come either from a sacred environment, from chant, or either from secular music, but which was used for building up the whole structure, either by imitation of it, or either by simply adding other voices upon it, and according to harmonic rules. So there was very complex things, which can be compared actually to symphonies, except that they had unlike symphonies, this music had to be performed during a very definite social and religious events. So they were functional music in a way. It was functional music, and in fact, music was functional until development of classical music, because it was conceived for certain events, and it was not thought of capable of conveying meaning outside these things. But apart from this written tradition in the 15th century, we have a sort of undercurrent sort of low music making, which was not written down, but which is very important, because perhaps it formed the bulk of musical activity of that era, which shows again that written music making was not, even if it was the most educated one, it was not the prevailing one, and it tended to be quite a specialized one.